All right, let's dive into one of the wildest, most provocative theories in all of human evolution, the Stoned Ape hypothesis. It asks a pretty mind-blowing question. What if a simple fungus is the reason we became, well, us?
To even begin to understand this theory, you first have to appreciate the massive mystery it's trying to solve. You see, something happened to our ancient ancestors that just catapulted us ahead of every other species on the planet. So what was it? What caused this unbelievable leap?
The heart of the mystery is right here, our brains. In what is basically a blink of an eye in evolutionary time, our ancestors' brains nearly doubled in size. We're talking a jump from around 900 cubic centimeters to 1,600. Now, that's not just gradual change. That is an explosion.
I mean, just look at this timeline. For millions of years, evolution was just kind of plodding along, slow and steady. Then, around 100,000 years ago, boom, this absolutely massive, unprecedented leap. It's a total anomaly, and standard evolutionary theory still kind of struggles to explain it.
Now, the usual answers you hear, discovering fire, making better tools, developing language, here's the thing. They all seem to have come after this big brain boom, not before. This is what led the ethnobotanist Terence McKenna to float a totally radical idea. What if the catalyst wasn't something our ancestors did, but something they ate?
And that brings us right to the theory itself. It was nicknamed the Stoned Ape hypothesis, actually by its critics, but the name stuck. It was McKenna's outsider attempt to explain how we went from being primitive apes to self-aware, creative, conscious human beings. McKenna's theory had 3 distinct stages, and it all depended on the dosage of psilocybin. That's the psychedelic compound in these mushrooms. At a low dose, he argued, it would have sharpened their vision, making them better hunters. A medium dose, well, that would lower social barriers, creating community and bonding. And at a high, what he called an ecstatic dose, that, he believed, is where the whole shebang happened. Abstract thought, spirituality, consciousness itself. Now, before you dismiss this, you have to admit the scenario he painted is actually pretty plausible. Think about it. Our ancestors were nomadic. They followed big herds of animals for food. Those animals left behind a lot of dung. And guess what just loves to grow in that dung? Psilocybin mushrooms. If you're a hungry hominid, that's going to look like an easy meal. For decades, this was all just a really cool story. But now we can actually look inside a living brain on psychedelics. So, let's switch gears and see what modern science has to say about all this. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. Scientists figured a psychedelic brain would light up like a Christmas tree, just chaos everywhere. But they saw the exact opposite. Key parts of the brain actually got quieter, especially a network called the default mode network. You can kind of think of that as your brain's CEO. It's your ego, your sense of self.
This quote from researcher Robin Carhart-Harris just nails what happens next. When that ego center goes offline, the rest of the brain starts talking to itself in ways it never normally would. Suddenly, the part that sees is talking to the part that remembers. The part that feels is talking to the part that hears. It is a total reorganization of the brain's communication network.
But here's the kicker. These changes aren't just for a few hours. The research shows that these new connections, these new neural pathways, can last for months, sometimes even permanently. People report lasting changes to their personality after just a single high dose. They become more open, more creative, more connected to others. Okay, so the effects on a single person's brain are clearly profound. McKenna pretty much nailed that part. But there is one massive, fatal flaw in the idea that this is what drove our genetic evolution. And it's a reminder that a really good story isn't always good science. The whole theory stumbles on a completely disproven idea called Lamarckian evolution. This is the old belief that traits you pick up during your life can be passed down to your kids through your genes. And we have known for a very long time that genetics just does not work that way. Let me make it super simple. If you spend your entire life in the gym and get totally ripped, your kids aren't born with six-pack abs. If you become fluent in French, your baby doesn't pop out speaking it. And in the very same way, an expanded consciousness from a mushroom trip, no matter how life-changing, doesn't rewrite the DNA you pass on. So if the mushrooms didn't change our genes, what did they do? Well, this leads us to a revised and way more scientifically plausible theory. It wasn't a hardware upgrade for our species. It was a software upgrade.
This chart lays it out perfectly. Genetic evolution changed our physical brain, our DNA. That's the hardware. But cultural evolution, that's different. It's driven by shared experiences, by ideas, by rituals. That's our software. And this is almost certainly where psychedelics played their part, by sparking the very first art, the first music, maybe even the first religions.
So here's the big takeaway. The mushroom wasn't the architect. It was the key that unlocked the door. It didn't build us a bigger, better brain. No, it revealed the incredible hidden potential of the powerful hardware we already had. It showed us what our minds were truly capable of.
So, while we've pretty much debunked the stoned ape theory as a driver of genetic change, the story is far from over. In fact, what we're left with is an even deeper and way more interesting mystery. And that's really the ultimate question, isn't it? We still have no idea what consciousness actually is, how a bunch of cells and electricity creates this feeling of being me. And we definitely don't know why this one particular molecule from this one little fungus holds such a profound key to that experience.
You know, in the end, maybe the scientific accuracy of the Stoned Ape theory isn't the most important thing about it. Its real value might be the way it forces us to ask these gigantic questions about our own minds. It makes us think about connection, not just to some distant ancestor, but to each other and to the world around us, right here and right now.